My girlfriend posted date night with Bae, but that arm wasn't mine. I froze, saw her laughing with another man, my stomach dropped, I didn't move, just watched the scene unfold. I scrolled through my feed, half expecting the usual selfies and brunch snaps. Then I froze. My girlfriend's latest post, date night with Bae. The caption alone would have been harmless if it weren't for the arm slung around her shoulder. The problem was simple and undeniable. That arm wasn't mine. I sat there on the couch, phone trembling slightly in my hand, trying to rationalize what I was seeing. Maybe it was a cousin, a friend? But no, the hand tattooed, rugged, the kind I had never seen before, curling over her shoulder, a grip far too intimate for any casual acquaintance. 3 months ago, I'd moved into her apartment. The air still smelled faintly of my cologne, a mixture of cedarwood and sandalwood. We'd had plans that evening, reservations at the bistro she loved, a movie lined up afterward. I had even remembered to pick up that bottle of wine she'd mentioned weeks ago. And yet, here I was, seeing her laugh with someone else in a picture perfectly staged for likes and hearts. I tapped the image to zoom. There was no hiding it, the smile, the tilt of her head, the gleam in her eye when she looked at him. Not at me, not in a private moment between us, but for everyone else to see. My stomach churned. A receipt from our favorite pizza place still sat on the kitchen counter at her apartment, uneaten. She hadn't even bothered to cancel the plans. My thumb hovered over the screen, unsure whether to comment, to confront, to demand an explanation in real time. Then I noticed it, a faint shadow of a ring on her left hand. Not the one I had given her for our anniversary. Another. Expensive. Flashing gold against the dim restaurant lighting. I didn't text her. I didn't call. I didn't move. I just sat there, absorbing every pixel of betrayal. The notifications kept coming, likes, hearts, comments, while I sat in silence, wondering how long she had been planning this. 3 hours later, I found myself standing outside her apartment, hands shoved deep into my pockets. The street was quiet, almost mocking, as if it too was aware of the scene I had just witnessed. I didn't knock. I didn't call. I just lingered, watching the light from her window flicker like a signal I no longer belonged. Then I realized something. Watching wasn't enough. Knowing wasn't enough. If I was going to confront this, I needed the facts, the timeline, the receipts, the undeniable evidence of what had been happening behind my back. And I had every intention of getting it. The night stretched on, heavy and silent. But by morning, I had made a decision. I wouldn't leave without answers. And if the picture was any indication, those answers were going to change everything. By morning, the city was quiet, streets still wet from last night's rain. I walked back to my apartment, coffee in hand, replaying that image over and over. Every laugh, every tilt of her head, every careless gesture screamed betrayal. I knew I couldn't just scroll past this. I needed to see for myself who he was, how long this had been going on. I started digging. Her social media posts over the past 2 weeks, casual check-ins, stories tagged at restaurants I hadn't even known she visited. The pattern was there, subtle, almost imperceptible, until you connected the dots. The same arm, the same laugh, the same dim lighting, always another man's profile in the background. I printed screenshots, cross-referenced dates, and even looked up tag locations. Receipt for $47 at that wine bar, the same night she claimed she was home studying. Another picture from brunch, an unfamiliar watch, polished leather strap, casually resting near her purse. I knew that arm belonged to him. Then came the worst discovery, messages. They weren't private, not technically. They had left them open on a shared tablet once. I didn't need to hack or pry. Just one glance revealed the casual intimacy, the planning, the secret appointments labeled as just us while I thought we were together. By noon, I had everything organized, screenshots, timestamps, social media posts, even a copy of the reservation for the sushi place she forgot to tell me about. I sat back, staring at the evidence, my hands trembling. I realized then that this wasn't just a random mistake or harmless flirtation. This was deliberate, repeated, and carefully hidden. I called a friend who had experience with digital forensics, someone who could help me preserve the evidence in a way that couldn't be denied or deleted. You need a timeline, every post, every message, I explained. Nothing gets lost. Nothing disappears. By evening, I had mapped out her movements over the past 3 weeks. Dinner reservations, morning coffee runs, late-night walks, all aligned with photos of him creeping into the frame, always just behind her arm, in the corner of a selfie or post. It was overwhelming, but there was a strange clarity in having the truth in front of me. No more guessing, no more excuses, no more denial. She had posted it proudly, "Date night with Bae," and I now had proof that it wasn't me. That night, I stayed awake, staring at the ceiling, planning my next move. Confrontation would come, but I needed precision. Impulsiveness could ruin everything. I wanted the truth out, not a fight, not shouting, just acknowledgement of what she had done. And when I finally saw her again, across the apartment lobby or in person, I wouldn't be caught off guard. I would have the receipts, the timestamps, and the undeniable proof. And maybe, just maybe, she wouldn't be able to smile with him anymore without consequences. The next evening, I found myself standing outside the bistro where we had originally planned our date. My nerves were taut, every breath measured. I had every screenshot, every receipt, every tag location backed up and organized in a folder on my phone. This wasn't about drama. It was about facts, clarity, and finally facing her with the truth. I walked in slowly, scanning the dimly lit room. There she was, laughing, that same arm slung over him, the one from the post, the one that had shattered my sense of trust. His profile didn't matter yet. He was just a part of the picture, a living, breathing confirmation of her betrayal. I approached the table quietly, not wanting to announce myself to everyone else. My heart pounded, but my voice remained calm when I spoke. "Hey, can we talk for a minute?" Her laughter stopped mid-sentence. She glanced up, surprised, then carefully measured her smile, the kind people use when they know they've been caught but aren't ready to admit. "Sure, what's up?" she replied, tilting her head as if this were a casual question over coffee, not the culmination of weeks of lies. I sat down, sliding my phone across the table. The screen displayed the first of many screenshots, her post with him, tagged at the exact time she had promised she'd be with me. "Explain this." Her eyes flickered to the screen, then back to mine. She opened her mouth, hesitated, and then laughed nervously. It's not what it looks like." I leaned back, keeping my tone low, and measured, every word deliberate. "Then explain every dinner reservation, every brunch check-in, every tag photo over the past 3 weeks. Because right now, this doesn't look like a mistake. It looks like a pattern." He shifted in his seat, clearly uncomfortable. I noticed the way his hand trembled slightly on the table, a subtle sign that he realized he was the other arm in someone else's deception. She glanced at him, then back at me, lips pressing together. It wasn't supposed to." I cut her off, calm but firm. "Not supposed to what? Trick me? Hide him from me? Post it online like it was a trophy?" She opened her mouth again, but I raised a hand. "I'm done guessing. I have the receipts, the timeline, everything. The story is out now. You don't get to rewrite it." For a moment, the restaurant felt too quiet, like the world had shrunk to just the three of us. Their laughter, her arm, his grin, it all seemed smaller, fragile, like a bubble about to pop. And I realized this confrontation was only the beginning. I turned my attention to him, the one whose arm had been wrapped around her so casually, so proudly. He was trying to smile, to appear confident, but I could see it in his eyes. The flicker of realization, the instant he understood he'd been dragged into something messy. "Do you know about us?" I asked, voice calm but pointed. He swallowed hard, looking between us. I thought she never." "I didn't know." I didn't flinch. "You didn't know? Really?" "Because I have the posts, the tag locations, the brunches, the dinner receipts. Everything lines up perfectly." He glanced at her, then back at me. His fingers fidgeted with the edge of the table, and for the first time, the casual arrogance I had imagined in him was gone. I didn't." I interrupted, leaning slightly forward, keeping my tone quiet, controlled. "Let me make this simple. I know exactly who you are, where you've been, and how long this has been going on. And right now, you have 2 choices. Admit it or walk away quietly." She gasped a soft shock sound. Her hand twitched near the glass of wine in front of her, as if she were trying to steady herself. You're overreacting. It's not what it seems." I gave her a steady look, letting the weight of my calmness speak louder than anger ever could. "Not what it seems. Posting it online for everyone to see? Laughing like it was a private joke while I was left out? You want it to be public, but now you're trying to spin it privately. Too late." He shifted uncomfortably, finally speaking in a quieter voice. I didn't mean for it to get like this. She never told me." I leaned back slightly, letting the tension linger. And that's exactly the problem. The lies, the hiding, the careful planning. I'm not here to yell or argue. I'm here to make sure the truth is undeniable. The restaurant around us seemed to blur, the clinking of glasses, the soft hum of conversation. None of it mattered. There was only the 3 of us, the photograph of betrayal, and the web of evidence I had meticulously gathered. And in that moment, I realized this confrontation wasn't just about catching her. It was about taking control of a situation she had manipulated for weeks. I had the proof, the timeline, and the resolve. Now, it was time to see if they could face it. She swallowed, her eyes darting between the screen of my phone and my calm expression. The laugh she had worn so confidently in her post was gone, replaced by something tight, forced. I didn't think you'd see it like this, she stammered. It was just a joke, a moment. I tapped the phone, bringing up the next screenshot. Brunch on Saturday. Same arm. Same smile. Same man. A joke? I asked quietly, my voice deceptively soft. You call 3 weeks of dinners, brunches, late-night walks, and stage photos a joke? He shifted, looking guilty, but I didn't let him speak yet. And don't even start spinning excuses about him not knowing, I continued. I have every tag, every post, every location check-in. You weren't being discreet. You were being meticulous. Her hand trembled as she reached for her glass, but I stopped her with a calm raise of my palm. I'm not here for theatrics, she realized too late. I thought you'd understand. I shook my head slowly. Understand what? That you'd plan a date night with him, post it for all to see, and think I wouldn't notice? You misjudged me, and you misjudged your control over this situation. He looked down at the table, finally muttering, We didn't mean to hurt you. I don't need apologies yet, I said, voice low, measured. I need clarity, honesty, and a plan for the truth you've been hiding. Her gaze fell to the floor. I could see her calculating, trying to find some way to spin it, to make it seem like she had not fully betrayed me. But the evidence was laid out. Posts, tags, timestamps. Every escape route blocked. I let the silence stretch for a few heartbeats. Then I spoke, just above a whisper. You wanted this to be a joke, a thrill, a game. But I'm done being part of the game. Now, it's my turn to decide the rules. The restaurant around us seemed to shrink, every patron, every clinking fork irrelevant. There was only the truth displayed like a mirror, and them finally seeing the reflection of the consequences of their choices. For the first time, I felt the shift in power, the realization that I wasn't just the one being deceived. I was the one holding the evidence, the timeline, the undeniable proof. And deep down, I knew this confrontation was only the beginning. Her eyes widened, panic finally creeping into her carefully curated composure. She glanced at him, then back at me, as if searching for a lifeline. I can explain, she stammered, her voice shaky. I leaned back, keeping my expression unreadable, letting the weight of the silence press down. Explain what? That you lied, planned, and posted it for everyone to see while pretending to be ours. He fidgeted nervously, glancing between us, clearly realizing he was caught in the crossfire. I didn't know she was. I held up my hand. Don't try to shield her. You're part of this story now. And the story is all here, in screenshots, timestamps, and posts. Everything you think you could hide is already documented. Her hands trembled as she picked up her wine glass, twisting it in her fingers. I didn't mean for it to get this far, she whispered. It started as fun, a joke. I raised my eyebrows, voice calm but sharp. A joke? A joke that spanned weeks? That involved secret dinners, brunches, and stage photos? That's not a joke. That's planning. He looked down, fidgeting. We didn't want to hurt you, he muttered, almost inaudible. I let out a slow breath, leaning in slightly. Then maybe you should have thought of that before posting it online, before smiling like it was a harmless moment, before pretending it was nothing while I believed in us. Her panic became visible now, her shoulders tense, her smile gone. Please I can make it up to you, she pleaded. I shook my head slowly, feeling a strange calm settle over me. It's not about making it up. It's about facing the truth. And right now, the truth is that I see everything, and nothing you do can erase what I've documented. The restaurant felt frozen in that moment. Patrons moved around us, oblivious, while I sat with the evidence laid bare. And for the first time, I wasn't just reacting. I controlled the narrative. She looked down, finally silent, realizing that her panic, her excuses, and her carefully built world were crumbling. He sat frozen too, understanding that this confrontation wasn't going to end with vague apologies. And I knew deep down that this was just the start of exposing everything. Her composure finally cracked. I saw it in the subtle tremor of her hands, the way her jaw clenched as if she was trying to force herself to breathe normally. She opened her mouth to speak, then closed it again. Silence stretched between us like a taut wire. I didn't think. I thought, she stammered, unable to finish the sentence. Her eyes darted to him for support, but he sat frozen, guilt written all over his face. The safety net she had counted on wasn't there. I leaned forward slightly, keeping my tone low, steady, almost surgical. You thought wrong. Every post, every smile, every date night was a choice. And I have proof. All of it. Every detail laid bare. Her face paled, and she instinctively glanced around the restaurant, as if the walls themselves could protect her from the evidence. You can't. I didn't. I held up my phone, swiping slowly through the screenshots, highlighting the timeline, the location tags, the repeated appearances of him by her side. Everything pointed to planning, not coincidence. See this? I said quietly. Every brunch, every dinner, every photo. You weren't alone in this. It wasn't a random coincidence. It was deliberate. Her lips pressed into a thin line. She swallowed hard, finally lowering her eyes to the table. The confidence she had worn in her post, the laughter I had once seen on her face in that picture was gone. Only panic remained, creeping like ice through her chest. I didn't mean for it to get this far, she whispered again, voice barely audible. I don't want mean to, I replied calmly. I want truth. And right now, the truth is simple. You betrayed me repeatedly, and now you face the consequences. He flinched, the first real sign of fear. I realized then that they both finally understood how thoroughly the deception had been uncovered. For the first time, I felt a strange sense of control settle over me. The chaos they had caused, the uncertainty, the lies, it was all laid out in front of me. And I wasn't flinching. I wasn't panicking. I was ready. She raised her head slightly, her voice trembling. Please, what are you going to do? I smiled faintly, letting the calm in my tone carry weight. I'm going to make sure the truth is undeniable, that nothing you've hidden can be spun or erased. And I'll decide what happens next. The air around us thickened with tension. She realized the game had shifted. I wasn't the one left in the dark anymore. The power had shifted. I left the restaurant before they could reclaim any dignity. Outside, the air felt sharp and clean, like a new page, but my hands were already busy. I spent the cab ride home composing a cold, technical plan. This wasn't about a spectacle, it was about forensic clarity. If she wanted to turn a private betrayal into a public post, then I would turn silence into a timeline she couldn't refute. Back at my place, I laid everything out on the kitchen counter like evidence on a table. Screenshots with timestamps, copies of reservation confirmations, the $47 receipt from the wine bar, the sushi booking that matched the exact hour she said she was home with me, and the tag location history from her profile. Then I printed a hard copy of the Instagram post. Picture, caption, likes because pixels can be edited, but paper feels permanent. I called a friend who worked in digital forensics and explained what I needed. A verified export of metadata, a clean PDF of the timestamps, and a hash so nothing could be denied later. He said he'd help, then asked one sharp question I already knew the answer to. Do I want this private or public? I said quietly, private first. Then consequences. Next, I drafted a concise message addressed to 3 people who mattered: our mutual friend who managed the group chats, her roommate who paid half the rent, and the accountant who sometimes handled joint expenses. The message wasn't dramatic, just facts, attached evidence, and a line. You deserve to know the timeline. Then I added one more to the draft, a version for her, plain and unembellished, listing dates and receipts, offering the chance for a truthful conversation before anything else happened. I thought about calling her parents, about sending screenshots at 2 a.m. to make it hurt. Instead, I chose restraint, because restraint has teeth. I blocked the urge to post a single humiliating line, and booked an appointment with a lawyer to understand my options about shared leases, accounts, and any damage control I might need. If she'd been planning this like a campaign, I would respond like an investigator. Documentation, chain of custody, witnesses. Then I added one more item to the list. Retrieve the U-Haul receipt from when I moved my stuff into her apartment 3 months ago. If the dates didn't match, it would be proof she'd been lying about where she slept. By midnight, I had 3 folders: digital, metadata exports and screenshots, financial, receipts and bookings, and witnesses, messages to friends, and the roommate. I labeled each with a bold date and a short note, reaction, action, consequence, so my head stayed clear. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt precise. I told myself, when she tries to gaslight, I will present the ledger. When she asks for forgiveness, I will offer the facts. Then I sat down and wrote a single line in the draft message to her. I want the truth, unedited. No dramatic posts, no public posts. Be honest by morning. By morning, the apartment below hers was quiet, and the sun found a crack in the blinds. Morning came with a gray, overcast sky, heavy enough to match the tension coiling in my chest. I didn't check my phone immediately. Instead, I brewed coffee, organized the folders one last time, and reviewed the timeline. Every brunch, dinner, late night, errand, every photo, every post, everything was there, all meticulously documented. Finally, I glanced at my phone. There it was, a single message from her, time-stamped 6:17 a.m. We need to talk. Please don't post anything yet. No excuses, no explanations, just those 6 words. It was the acknowledgement I had been waiting for. She realized the control had shifted. I didn't respond. I waited, letting the silence press, letting her sit with the weight of the evidence she had assumed I hadn't seen. She had been so confident, so smug with her date night with Bay post. Now the tables had turned, and she could only react. I packed a small notebook and my laptop into my bag, each folder precisely in order, digital, financial witnesses. I intended to meet her in person, not to yell, not to accuse, but to force clarity and let the facts speak for themselves. Outside, the city was waking slowly. The hum of traffic, the occasional siren, it all felt muted compared to the storm I carried internally. I texted our mutual friend to meet as a witness, casually. I'll be at the cafe in 30. Important conversation. I didn't mention why. They knew enough from prior hints, enough to understand this was serious. By the time I arrived, the cafe was quiet, a few early risers scattered at tables. I found a corner, laid the folders neatly in front of me, laptop open, phone ready. Each screenshot, each receipt, each timestamp carefully organized. Precision was the goal, proof, not emotion. And then I saw her. She entered cautiously, eyes scanning, lips pressed together. Her confidence from the Instagram post was gone. The air around her trembled slightly as she noticed the folders, my calm posture, and the witness already seated. For the first time, I saw genuine fear on her face. She knew this wasn't about a confrontation anymore. This was about facts, timelines, and undeniable evidence. I let the silence stretch. She sat, hands folded, and finally whispered, I didn't mean for it to. I leaned back slightly, voice steady, quiet, surgical. We're done with meant to. Show me the truth. Now. The cafe seemed to shrink around us, leaving only 3 people, a stack of evidence, and the inevitable reckoning that had been building for weeks. She folded her hands like someone praying for a pardon she hadn't earned. Our mutual friend sat stiff, eyes flicking between us like a judge weighing testimony. I set the laptop forward and opened the first PDF. Metadata export, timestamps, GPS trail, plain, clinical, impossible to argue with. Start talking, I said. No more stories. She inhaled, then spilled it in pieces that sounded rehearsed and raw at once. It started as a stupid thrill. I didn't mean for it to be anything serious. I thought it would stop. He said he wasn't looking for anything real either. I didn't tell you because I was afraid you'd be hurt. I watched the pattern on her face as she tried to stitch excuses into something believable. Her voice cracked when she mentioned the ring, an engagement she'd been offered at work, a job promotion party that turned into something else. She'd accepted a compliment and let it grow. When I showed the U-Haul receipt dated August 3rd for $89, the week she'd said she was working late, her face went from pale to small. You booked a U-Haul? Our friend asked, incredulous. She nodded, tears finally falling. I didn't move anything. I just drove it for a day to help him. It wasn't what you think. I clicked through the receipts, the $47 wine bar charge that matched the night she told me she was home sick, the sushi reservation on a date we'd planned, the brunch photo with his leather strapwatch in clear view. Each line read like testimony. I didn't want to fight, I said. I wanted the truth. You had a choice to tell me. You chose not to. She looked at him then, as if searching for a partner who would salvage the story. But he avoided her eyes. When I asked him directly about the engagement ring in her post, he finally admitted he'd been seeing someone else too, an unstable mess of people and promises none of them were willing to defend publicly. So what now? She whispered, small and raw. I had already thought through the options in the nights of insomnia, what to demand, what to surrender, what to protect. This wasn't about revenge. It was about safety, financial, legal, emotional. I closed the laptop and folded my hands away I'd seen my father do when he meant business. I will move my things out, I said. I'll transfer my name off the lease, settle joint accounts, and, if you want, go through counseling with a licensed mediator so things end cleanly. If you refuse to be honest with me now, I'll take the documentation to the lawyer. I won't make it public. I don't want to humiliate you. I want clarity and accountability." Her knees trembled. She hadn't expected calm. She'd expected fury. Instead, she got a ledger and a deadline. Our mutual friend, quiet until now, spoke up. "She asked me once if she should tell you," the friend admitted. "I told her yes. She said she'd figure it out. I didn't think she'd keep hiding it." That small admission did more than scold. It showed the chain of failed choices surrounding her. The web wasn't only between the three of us. It involved silence, denial, and 1,000 small acts that compounded into this betrayal. She reached for my hand, a fragile, pleading gesture. "I'm sorry," she said. "I know that's not enough." I didn't take her hand. I didn't yell. I did something quieter that felt harder. I turned my chair slightly to the window and looked at the street, letting the moment settle into a decision. "Apology accepted as a start," I replied. "But actions have to follow. Proof of cancellation of that ring. Proof you'll be honest with anyone affected, roommate, family, the people we share bills with. And you need to be alone for a while. I'm not staying in a place where my presence is a secret you can erase." She nodded, words falling out like a confession and a relief. She pulled up the notification from her phone and began deleting posts, first the one that had started it all, then the others that annotated the affair. It was a small, humiliating unmaking, but it was real. By the end of the afternoon, I had a lawyer consultation booked, a moving van reserved for the weekend, and my boxes labeled. Clothes, books, electronics, each tag exact, practical, unemotional. I left a single note on the kitchen counter for her roommate, factual and clean. Invoice numbers, account transfers, dates for pickup. No drama, no spectacle, just logistics and boundaries. I didn't stalk her profile afterward. I didn't post a single screenshot. I walked away like someone closing a ledger and starting a new one. The first week I stayed with a friend. The second, I rented a small studio with a window that faced a park. I still had the receipts and the printed PDF in a folder in my desk drawer, evidence in case I needed it, a reminder that I'd chosen clarity over chaos. Months later, I found myself on a bench in that park, the late sun on my face, a to-go coffee cooling beside me. The pain had not vanished, but it had shrunk into something manageable, an ache that taught me what I would no longer tolerate. I had lost an illusion, sure, but gained a ledger I could always open. Names, dates, receipts, consequences. It was ugly and clean, like pruning a tree to make room for new growth. I didn't seek revenge. I rebuilt. I learned to sleep without checking her feed. I paid the last joint bill and closed the account. I called the landlord, not to accuse, just to update. When the final box was loaded into the van, I stood on the sidewalk, watched it disappear, and felt the shape of my life shift back towards something I recognized. The arm in the photograph had belonged to someone else, temporarily, foolishly, but the life it had been posted into was mine to reclaim. I didn't rage. I didn't explode. I collected the receipts, closed the accounts, and walked forward. The world kept scrolling, indifferent, and I kept moving, deliberate and unembarrassed.